Good morning, West USA. Welcome to another edition of our Monday morning webinar. I am your humble host, kind of humble. I'm the most humble guy I know. How about
Lies this Monday morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
start off the week. Everybody joining us today. If I get control of the soul. Nick's only has one job.
With affirmations.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
All right. A little sneak peek of what we got coming up. Of course, Todd Menard here is going to give us a look at the numbers. Matt Baker with the Bookspan Baker team going to give us our mortgage minute. And I'm going to talk about open houses. Open houses are back, Todd. So
They
we
are.
need to talk about open houses because there's frankly just some stuff out there that's frustrating me. So we're going to talk about that. And then we are going to wrap up our 4-week series talking about just listing properties in this current market. And we brought in Jennifer Cucci, who is an appraiser. And so just going to really have a discussion about valuating properties because that's right now
Perfect.
one of the biggest challenges right now. So
Absolutely.
Nick, I just need control of the screen. All right. As always, if you got any comments or questions, please feel free to email us at webinar@westusa.com. Feel free to drop in a line and say, hey, Nick, can you get this stuff working properly? We want to encourage him. All right. We got a bunch of announcements coming up. All right. Tomorrow we begin our round of weekly happy hours. So that is between 4:30 and 6:30 for the Arrowhead office at Revolu Modern Tank. I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak English. I don't speak
Taqueria.
Yeah, that too. All right. So that's where we're going to be next tomorrow from 4:30 to 6:30. Best part about this is vendors are going to be covering appetizers, but you're going to be covering your own cocktail. So that is tomorrow. And as always, we are going to be all of these events are on the dashboard. So just go to the dashboard, go to the calendar, and you can get signed up for them. All right, Nick, you're killing me, home slice. All right, economic development and housing market update. Obviously, these classes are more and more important than ever. This is going to be going on tomorrow between 10 and 12 here at the corporate office. This is a real interesting one. This guy is from the Maricopa Association of Government. So he's going to kind of give us an analytical approach insight to what's going on in the Phoenix area. All right, we are continuing our essential learning class with Wendy Ogba. Is it Ogba?
Yep.
Okay. One of those. So talking about Armless. So if you've got some questions about how to use Armless, especially if you're new, or about maybe some changes coming up, that is going to happen in the Goodyear area, the Palm Valley Community Center. So that's an in-person class tomorrow between 10 and 11. Todd's got his next CE class, 3 hours of fair housing going on this Wednesday from 9 to 12. This is a virtual class, so get caught up on your CE hours. All right, our next Chandler office meeting is coming up this Wednesday from 10 to 11:30. All right, we're going to talk about Circle Picks and what it is and what the benefits are. So just a little note, Circle Picks is not going to sell your listing, but it is going to provide you some great tools to help you market your listing. And of course, Dean Becker is going to be there as our special guest. All right, hey, referrals are as important as ever. This, to me, is truly where the business comes from. So this is going to be a great class, a great opportunity to learn how to build your referral network. It's going to be here at the corporate office this Wednesday from 11:30 to 1. It's right down the hall for me, so I'm looking to see if there's going to be any lunch. Lunch is provided. All right, so I'm stopping by. Nick. All right. Surprise office meeting coming up Wednesday from 10 to 11:30. Of course, in person. Dale Stauffer with iFound Agent. I was going through the flyers. I'm like, look, hey, my name's on there. So he emailed me, goes, hey, man, can you give me an endorsement? And I use the iFound Agent premium website all the
Dale
time.
doesn't listen to the webinars because he gets an endorsement every Monday from
you.
you.
Yeah, pretty much. So I use this all the time. It is a huge lead gen machine. So definitely you want to attend. And again, it doesn't matter what office you hang your license out of, feel free to attend. All right. So another social hour, happy hour, maybe appetizers. Yep. So this is for the Goodyear office. This is going to be at the Wigwam, 4:30 to 7 o'clock this Thursday. So Wigwams.
That's awesome.
Great place. All right, and then speaking of, and of course we've got Jennifer Cucci here going to talk about appraisals, but then we also have another special event coming up this Friday in person at the Arrowhead office, learning more about appraisals and how to prepare for the appraiser, and really just how to comp homes in this current market. So this is coming up this Friday from 10 to 11. So important, whether on the listing side or the buy side, really finding that proper valuation is so critical. All right, Todd, a lot of announcements, but we got one more. All right, so we got Midsummer Lunch and Learn on BPOs and valuations. This is going to be in person, a way to make some extra cash. So this is coming up Tuesday, October 18th from 9:30 to 11, going to be at the Kierland office. All right, Todd, I'm going to hand this off to you and take us through the market stats.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. This is the market statistics for the week ending Monday, October 17th. Please also check your office roster, your office closed Facebook groups. I did post the September month end this morning, so take a look at that. So here we go. Okay, across the top, we have 54 days on market. We have a 4.59 month supply right now. We have a 21.8 absorption rate. Our list price went up a little bit to $686,000. Average sale price at $541,000, and our list price to sale price retention at 97.41. Looking at inventory is up to 21,000. We're just crested the 21,000 mark, 21,280. That was up 3.5%. Pending is sitting at 3,270. That's not a mistake. Looking at closed units for the month to date is 1969, but as we always say, it's a little too early to really determine or look at those numbers at this point in the month. New listings, we took 1,755 new listings this past week. That's a significant shortage. Days on market for active is at 84.5 and for closed at 48. Taking a look at our price ranges under 500,000. We talked about this last week. We've actually been talking about this for quite some time now. This is now up to 56.22% of the entire MLS inventory. It's been as low as 42.5%. Normally I hate the word normally, prior to COVID back in 2019, this represented about 72% of our entire MLS database. So obviously the prices have gone up, moved a lot of properties from that 400 to 500 range into the $500 to $1 million range, which really has skewed everything. But this is now only representing 56.2% of the entire MLS. The good news, the silver lining, is it's 10%, 13% more than it was just about 8 months ago. Looking at 500,000 to $1 million, we're at 33.1. That's a good number. 68 days on market for the entire segment. That's a really brisk number at this particular moment. $1 million and up, sitting at 10%, which has been kind of consistent for the last 30 years. Okay, looking at new listings, this is where the spreadsheet where we really get to become the expert. We get to really take a look at the numbers week over week, month over month, as it compares to last year, 3 years ago. This really has a lot of information in one shot. Right in the center of the sheet, you'll see 2019 SW. That represents what the same week was in 2019. To the left of that column, you have 2021 SW, which is the year before, last year. And of course, the last 2 months in a row, 2 weeks in a row, looking at this current week and the week previous. So as you can see, the week previous, we took 2,089 listings. We were complaining because it was really not enough. Way over on the left-hand side, you see our rules of thumb. We really need about 2,400 plus here to have a real strong new listing market. Now, there could be a couple of things happening here. We are still in October, where I don't think Thanksgiving's on anybody's mind yet, though don't go to Costco because Christmas will be on your mind. But the fact is that we only, there could be some underlying circumstances. Hopefully, this is just a blimp on the market, on the radar as far as what's going on. We really hope we're back up above 2,000, but be prepared. The middle of November, all of a sudden a light switch typically hits, and sellers don't want to have people touring their homes during the holidays. So now is a great time to get your buyers out, kind of explain that to them, make them understand that if they wait until November or December, the consumers are a lot less likely to want to put their houses on the market. And many times on the market, they make showing much more difficult because people just don't want people in their home with presents under the tree history and things of that nature. So please take that into consideration. New listing inventory, or the entire inventory, is now up to 21,280. That's a good sign. Just for grins and giggles, slide your eyes to the right. Look at last year at 8,500 homes, and then our banner year in 2019 prior to COVID, 14,600. We've got inventory. Inventory is no longer an issue. 502, so that 21,280 total active is made up of 502 coming soon properties, which is down 17,751 single family non-distressed, 2,497 new builds, 21,231 total properties that are, non-distressed. So the first one was single family detached. But there is no shadow inventory being added. It's very, very consistent. But again, if you look way over to the right in the goldenrod column of 2019, you'll see that it was as high as 67. We're about 30% of where a normal market might be for distressed property. And of course, we know with iBuyers in the marketplace, that's one of the reasons why that happened. Here's the crisis. Crisis is pending. We've been talking about this. We talked about 3,200, 3,300, 3,500 being a bad number, being way too low. We need to have this at 5,000. Why are the buyers not coming back into the marketplace? That is going to be the question. Why are they not re-entering the market? I understand interest rates. Well, we'll hear from Matt Baker in just a moment from Fairway Mortgage. Could it be there at 8%? We'll see. But the thing is why aren't people re-engaging? They can assume a loan. They can, a 3.5% mortgage. They can, do a 2-1, 3-2-1 buy down. There's a lot of options. But right now, this is the problem right at this particular moment, is that there's not enough people physically under escrow buying homes at this particular moment. Looking at closed inventory, 2,300. We were at 4,400 last year. So this is a significant drop as far as, the average closed is. We have to expect this is going to be somewhere in the 25 to 30% range moving forward, at least for a little bit of time. So what do the numbers mean? If you take the numbers that we just talked about above, it means we're at a 4.59 month supply right now. We were at 2.36 last week. What changed? It's just the way the numbers are calculated. Next week we could be back into a 2.75 particular area. So it's very, very important. We understand what's going on in the market and why. List prices and sale prices are actually pretty steady. That's been a really nice thing to see, that, we really haven't had what we had in 2020 where prices were going up dramatically. So they were coming down about 3 to 5%. Now they're not. Now they're staying stable. So pretty much there's not really any more price reductions happening in the marketplace, but to the negotiator goes the spoils. So be good, negotiate well, and you'll win. Last piece is the list price to sale price retention stayed the same at 97.41. Again, good number because it's 97.8 is the target range. And as long as we're well under 98, we're in good shape. So Mike, that's the numbers and how everything's shaken up.
All right. I know you've been wondering what happened last week, why the numbers dropped so much. I was on vacation, so I wasn't working, and therefore,
you know what? Hey, can you call me ahead of time and let me know so I can kind of put that as the anomaly?
All right, Matt Baker, let's bring you in.
Fall break, right? Yeah. So a little bit of delay, but let's talk about rates because it's ticking up a little bit here over the last week or two. So you're firmly in the 7s, depending on your rate and score, your credit score and your down payment. So just kind of be mindful of that. They're pretty volatile. When I mean pretty volatile, we're having 2-3 rate changes a day. Which normally you get one midday rate change a week. So there's just a lot of up and down, like not just 1/8 of a point swings. I mean, we're talking a quarter, 3/8 of a point swings in interday, which is really crazy. But you're seeing that on the stock market if you follow that at all. But let's talk today, and we've set this example before, but I actually put numbers to it today. And as a kind of a takeaway, you can email me to that marketing@booksvanbaker.com and get some flyers on this. But here's the cost of waiting for 1 year. And so I did a $400,000 house at 5% down. So a $380,000 loan. I put in what the P&I would be at kind of a 7% interest rate, $300 in taxes, insurance, and MI. You're at $2,828 total payment. Now, so fast forward, if you 1 year from now, the home would appreciate, I'm saying 5% on average. I think that's fair. You have 12 months interest off taxes, which is $24,000 is your interest for the first year. And so you do a 28% tax bracket, which I thought was also fair, then you're talking about a $7K tax reduction in your first year. Plus, you get that $5,000 in the home 401K that Weinstein likes so much. And so then you've got $32,000 in 1 year. You got to gain. So what's the alternative? Well, go to the next slide. Well, here's what happens when you're renting. Now I use 2,500, and so I think this is where the buyer holdup is that they're looking strictly at payment. They're going, well, I have to spend $300 more a month to buy. I don't want to do that. I want the lowest payment. So they're going to go try to rent. Well, look what happens at $30,000 for the first year in rental cost, right? You're basically thinking, well, it's about $4,000 less. If you add up 28, if you do that math, you're basically about $4,000 less to rent, but then you miss out on the tax. You miss out on the 401k add, to the home value. You miss out, of course, on the appreciation. So you're really talking about, if you go to the next slide, you're just missing out on that 32 grand. So you're basically almost washing, right, your first year. And then if you go to the second year, now you're talking about almost 65,000 in gain. That's going to cost you 62,000 to rent. So you're now already ahead. That's year two. And again, you get no benefit from renting, right? I mean, you're talking about $65,000 in positive add that you would have just flushed down the toilet year two. So, when you think about what do you want to do, how do you want to present this? I mean, obviously, let's do a co-branded flyer. And that, we've done the week before, just email marketing@bookspanbaker.com kind of gives you buying a home versus renting a home. And I think we need to tell people about these numbers. We need to show them these numbers because that's where the buyers, I think, are getting held up. They're getting held up on payment and with down payment assistance, with all the low down options available. I mean, it's almost easier or I would say less expensive out of pocket at the beginning to buy right now than it is to rent with all those sort of assistance programs that are out there. And then one more thing to kind of leave you with today is we're talking about doing a virtual mastermind. So if you're interested in doing a virtual mastermind, what's a virtual mastermind? Well, my wife and I just had our anniversary and we sat down and said, what do we want to do for 2023? What GCI number do we want to hit? And then how do we reverse engineer it to hit that? So if you want some accountability, you want to meet, we're going to do a virtual mastermind, just thinking through Zoom. I'm not sure if it's going to be every other week or what the timing is, but if you're interested in that, you can maybe hit the chat up and Nick can tell me about that later. But I feel like right now we need to double down on our activity to generate where we want to be. And what better than to have sort of that conversation? Well, how do I even reverse engineer a goal? I mean, nobody teaches us that, right? When we're getting out of school or we're coming into this business. So I've got 25 years of experience there. And so I think we're going to try to do some sort of virtual mastermind where we talk about some of these other strategies on how to, better ourselves, but also generate more volume and income as a result.
Yeah, and if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't want to do a mastermind, then there's not much we can do to help you because the top producers that I know, we mastermind. This is what we do. I'm always part of mastermind groups because it's just learning from other people. So appreciate you making that available. And those flyers, I would definitely reach out to Matt Baker on those flyers because especially Todd and I, we're going to talk about open houses for a couple minutes, and you want some really quality material that you can sit down and make sense to buyers and you can explain it to buyers. So let's appreciate it, Matt, as always. Good awesome stuff. All right, so let's talk about our 3-pack, Todd. I wanted to we have been today, we're going to be wrapping up our 4-week series on marketing listings and marketing stale listings and things like that. But really right now, it's all about buyers. It's about finding buyers because, as you mentioned in the stats, inventory is not an issue anymore. No. We got plenty of inventory. And so for me, if I'm brand new or if I don't have, my rule of thumb is if I can't wake up every day and be on the phone for 2 to 3 hours talking to prospects, that means I don't have enough people in my database. Yep. And that means you don't have enough people in your database. So that means you got to go out and meet people. And for me, open houses right now are where it's at. They are back, way back in a galaxy far, far away, Todd. Open houses are what we did. Yeah. This was a major part of our business plan. Right now, it's just agents go, if I got nothing going, I'll do an open house here. I'll do an open house there. back when I started, we did open houses all the time. It literally was not just an added feature to our business plan, but it was a major, major portion of our business plan. And Nick, I don't know the numbers, but how many agents are we up to, give or take, here at West USA right now?
We're about 3,100.
So 3,100 agents. It's driving me nuts to see agents on our closed Facebook groups having to beg people to do open houses. If you don't have anything in the pipeline and you don't have people to talk to, I would be jumping on, if I didn't have enough business, I'd be jumping on every single open house opportunity that I could get my hands on.
West USA represents between 10 to 14% of the entire market share. So the thing is, that means that 1 out of every 10 or 1.5 out of every 10, 14 out of every 100 homes are listed by a West USA agent. So if we have that many homes, just say today it's 1,000. We have 1,000 homes that are out there. There should not be a problem finding a property. Now, not every property is open house worthy, but to that particular point, there's not a problem here. Let me just flash back, Mike. You brought up flashing back, so we're going to flash back. Holding an open house is a listing agent's responsibility. Now, when markets go crazy, capricious markets like in 2005, and again, what we just experienced during COVID, there's not enough time in the day to schedule an open house. I get that. However, when the markets start to get back into that above 2 months supply, it's time to come back into the marketplace. But please understand, this is a listing agent's responsibility to hold an open house. This is a marketing feedback opportunity that a listing agent, as an advertiser, as a realtor, has a responsibility to a seller to collect potential data from a demographic of possible buyer. Now, how do you know the people that are in the neighborhood are a demographic that might be buying that home? Because they live there. It's there. That's that sale price. All the things come up that way. So, yes, if a listing agent is a true listing agent and they've got 20, 30 listings as an individual, it's impossible for them to hold every home open. That gives you and I, Mike, as a buyer's agent, the opportunity. It's not a failure of the listing agent in this example. It's the fact that they've built a system that allows them to have so many listings that they've got to have buyer's agents hold them open.
All right. So, and we've talked about, and I know you just did a class last week on putting together your 2023 business plan. Make open houses part of your number one lead source. Number two, leverage the day. This is driving me nuts. Agents call me, goes, well, what time should I do the open house? Should I do from 10 to 1, 1 to 4? This is your job. Like, I don't get to just come in for 3 hours a day. I mean, if you want to be successful in this business, it's a full-time job. And when I say full-time, it's 40 plus hours. It's not between 30 to 40 hours. So why not make your open houses a full day? Maybe if you need a couple days off, and you don't have enough people to talk to, maybe take Mondays and Tuesdays off. But Saturdays and Sundays, a 3-hour open house, for me, you're missing opportunities. And it's just a mindset. It's just kind of how we've always done it. Agents, I don't think, just know better. But why not do an open house from 9 to 5? You've got nothing else to do. So I'm not sure why we limit open houses to 3 to 4 hours, because it just takes that one visitor. So make it easy. The longer I'm sitting there, the more opportunities I'm going to have visitors come through and have a real estate conversation with visitors. And then this is something that we used to do way back in the day, is during the week, don't work from home. You don't need to be in the office. If you need a place to go work today for the next 6 hours, and it's a Monday, it's a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday, why not do your office hours sitting at a home? Put out some signs. And you have to get work done anyway. So even if nobody comes through, I'm getting stuff accomplished. But it just takes that one person to come through or two people to come through. 40 hours. Why not Wednesday through Sunday? You're 8 hours a day. You're holding an open house.
Mike, I got chills, and I'll tell you why.
There's my good looks and charm. My good looks and charm.
Your radio personality. So here's the thing, though. NAR did a study way back. I don't know. This is probably a decade ago, or maybe a little longer. And there was a girl named Susan, specifically, that ended up being the person that they interviewed. And she came from Florida. She lived in Florida, and she was brand new in the world. However, a year later, she had over 120 closings underneath her wing that she had done during that first 12 months. And everybody now wants to know, what do you mesmerize people? Do you hypnotize them? I mean, how do you get so many people to be so successful? And she said, all I do every single day is I hold an open house. And she just to your point, Mike, you said, why not Wednesday through Sunday? If you're not going to bump into people in your home office, so if you go to do some effort out in a model home or in a home, and it's got to meet the right criteria, not every single home. So, reach out to us if you're not sure what is a good home to hold open. But you hit that nail right on the head. Why not be in a place where even if somebody's a Debbie decorator or a looky loo, whatever you want to call these people, nosy Neds, whatever you want to call them, and they come into your front door, that's somebody you would not have met.
You know who does this? Builders.
Oh, of course, they taught us.
Builders aren't open on Saturdays from 12 to 3 and Sundays from 10 to 2.
Exactly.
They're open 7 days a week, all day long, because people are looking. Yep. All right, and then number 3 is really getting back to that mindset, no lead left behind. Every lead, every visitor has a value and should be treated appropriately. Visitors, I'm finding in this market, people who are coming to open houses in this market are more serious. I'm not going to say there's not going to be any looky-loos coming through, right. But most buyers or most people coming through open houses are more serious. For some reason, they're still looking. They're not as intimidated or scared about interest rates. So you got to know your tool belt. The next week, I'm going to continue this next week talking about you got to know what to say when people come in, but you got to know your tool belt. I call it the West USA tool belt. We use it to collect people's names, phone numbers, and email addresses, whether it's your mobile app, whether it's your upgraded website, whether it's RPR, understanding all the tools, understanding who's coming to the open houses, what tools are going to be appropriate, and what tools are going to allow you to collect names, phone numbers, and email addresses, and of course, put that information into your CRM. Now, just getting that information and inputting it into your CRM is not enough. Very rarely people are going to go, oh my God, I'm ready to go right now. I'm going to go right this second. You've got to be top of mind. Yeah. Okay. When they're ready, they're ready. Who are they going to think of when they're ready? So you have to have a very specific follow-up strategy, whether you're reaching out to them on a weekly basis. What are you sending them? What do these conversations look like? Just because they don't transact in the first 30 days doesn't mean that they're not going to transact in the next 12 months. Right. Just position yourself to be top of mind.
So there's a NAR statistic, and it is a statistic that works in any stable market. So we have anywhere from a 2 to 4 months supply of property. This will work. And NAR says this: when you hold your open homes, 48% of all buyers tour open homes. Now, regardless of the reason why they may tour, 48%. So almost half of all buyers have walked through an open house. So the statistic is if you say for every 100 people that come through my open house, 48 people should basically do business, or should 48 out of every 100 people should tour my home. Once they do, here's the statistic: 4 to 6 people of those 48, 4 to 6 people use that host to list their home. So 4 to 6 people. So out of 48 people who tour your home, 4 to 6 of them should list with you, and then 5 to 7 should buy from you with you as their representative. So just take the average of those two numbers. That's 12 out of every 48 people who tour your open house should do business with you. Now, if they're not, that's the statistic. That's the benchmark. That's a proof. That's not somebody saying, oh, it should work. No, this is the results. It does work. And so if you aren't getting those numbers, if you are not working with 25%, you're not staging the home right. And I don't mean the furniture. I'm talking about the event. I'm talking about did you properly market the event to 200 people around, 200 homes around it? Mike, we can go through all that in one of our later segments, but those are the things that people really need to come back to understand. And if you haven't held an open house or you've never been taught how to hold an open house, let us know. We'll teach a class. I've got a Mastering the Open House class. Mike, you can do it with me. You and I have done this for decades. It'd be a blast.
Dominated the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to touch on is that you guys are talking about all the wins you get from doing a successful open house. I think we definitely want to remind people, how to get people through an open house. I see on the weekends all the time, agents go, how's traffic going? I have no one at my open house. The agents I don't see posting that are the agents that are actually being intentional on why they're having an open house for their business. They're just not doing it because I'm supposed to do an open house. They're marketing and canvassing and getting out emails, building CRMs, having their drips ready to go, which yes, could be a little overwhelming for a new licensee, but it's not difficult to do. If you're not sure where to start, that's when you talk to a coach, talk to Todd, talk to Mike, talk to a team leader at West USA, and they'll point you in the right direction on how to get started.
Absolutely.
All right. So, back in the day when people would be leaving the business, say, I'm not cut out for real estate, my exit interview question would be, well, how many open houses are you averaging per week? Because that's the market that we're in. This is, if you want business, this is where you want to do it. All right. So that's our 3-pack on open houses. Todd and I, we're going to continue the series next week. I love talking about open houses. So
do I.
All right. So with that being said, we are going to continue and wrap up our 4-week series. The last 3 weeks, we've been talking to top producers, team leaders about listings and marketing listings and having tough conversations with sellers when it comes down to listings. So we thought we would just conclude this series by talking to an appraiser. And so most of you at West USA, Anthony Cucci with HCP Inspections, and you realize you look at him, you go, man, how does he become so successful? Because he's Anthony. Well, this is why. So we have got his spouse, Jennifer Cucci, who is an appraiser. Jennifer, thanks for joining us today. And I know you hate doing these things, but we so much appreciate your time.
No problem.
All right, so that's the biggest thing. Those are the challenges right now. Is this market? Many of us have not seen a market like this ever, depending on when you got your real estate license. I'm talking with a seller. I don't know, especially a complicated listing. I don't even know how to begin to, especially in this market, truly find where is that sweet spot. What is the proper value of a property? And then it's not just for the listing side. I think there's more pressure on the buy side because you don't want to overpay. Sometimes you're having to have these tough conversations with the listing agent of going, listen, your listing's not worth this. And so let's jump into it. Let's talk about finding comps for difficult properties and maybe also just kind of relate that into some of the simpler properties. But, I've been calling you lately because I've had a few gems, even one you're like, yeah, I don't know what to do. I was a converted hotel. I'm like, oh my gosh, didn't even know. But how do you begin the process with a difficult property to really try to find a value for it?
Well, for the really difficult ones, I would say you need to expand your market. I would say when you're looking for, a house, where is your typical buyer going to come from? Are they going to come from, just this 1 mile, small, this one subdivision? Or are they going to look at the competing subdivisions? Are they going to look, at a different, maybe like a school district? Maybe they want their kids in a certain school district. So, those are things you can do. You can always, reach your search into like say the school district. That's going to be a little bit bigger, different subdivisions, but still comparable, right? Like,
are appraisers going beyond that subdivision themselves?
Yes, if it's a difficult property. If you have one property and there's 6 different sales in that exact subdivision, they're not going to go further than that. But if there is nothing, if there's maybe one sale and then nothing else, then of course, yes, we're going to have to go to the competing subdivisions. We're going to have to go within the school district or in that, just widen our search a bit.
Well, I've heard, and this may be a myth, but I heard most appraisers are just using this estimate and that's it, right?
Of course.
I start and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. When I first of all, I start the process, and people are going to hate me for this. I just start the process with RPR, just because I just want to know my benchmark. I never show up to a listing with RPR and saying this is what we should evaluate it. This is what we should list your home for. But RPR just kind of gives me a basis point. But where I'm really starting the process is on monsoon. And when I hit the comparable button on monsoon, I take a look at that map. And I'd like to think, and I could be wrong, that appraisers are seriously considering what's on that map as well. And oftentimes what's on that map is not just in the subdivision.
Right, right. Yeah, we look at that too. I mean, we pull a lot of research on every property. I mean, it's about the numbers, it's about what Todd talked about, it's about, you know, the whole picture. You need to know the days on market, you need to know all of those things. So really knowing your area and your the house you're listing or the house you're buying, I mean, you have to know basically everything there is to know about that market, not just necessarily that subdivision or that particular house. I mean, you really want to know all there is to know.
When you're on Monsoon and we get those list of homes, and there's always that one that says should not be used as a comp or whatever the case is. How do you guys view that?
I always look at that one because I mean, usually it's off, right? It's the one that's, $20,000 less or more or something to that effect. And sometimes they are comparable and sometimes they're not. I mean, you just have to see what exactly was that and why is it so much higher, so much lower than the rest of them?
All right, and so then some of the other criteria, obviously, inside the MLS, we're looking at active, under contract, pending, and sold. And I know we have up here, and so some agents are going to have, some contention on this. But keep in mind, this is really taking a look at difficult properties, going back 12 months, because you do want to go back 12 months, and then you can still adjust the price for future.
Right.
But sometimes with difficult ones, you got to find that one comp. You got to try to find that
Gotta
one
find three.
the three alike type properties. And yes, we are going back 12 months, but we're not necessarily taking a look at that price 12 months from now.
Right.
But we got to find the similar apple. We're comparing apples to apples here.
Right. I mean, if you have a golf course or a basement or something, I mean, those are features that people are looking for. So you need to find comparables that will have those features. And sometimes you have to go back 12 months. I mean, that's not ideal. It's not the best thing, but if there is nothing, then that's the only thing you can do is to go back, find the similar benefit or similar feature, and then you have to go and figure out what they were selling for at that time versus what they're selling for today. And that again is all about the numbers, all about, pulling the right data and trying to figure it out.
So my big question for you then is to take into account the current market. Is let's say I'm taking a look at Palm Valley Phase 5. Okay, finding comps is not a problem because it's
Right.
a very active market. But when I'm trying to evaluate a property right now, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff on Facebook, and I'm just telling people probably don't go by what other agents think that that you should be doing, on these Facebook groups, and that's why we have you here. How far, if I'm looking at a house right now in Palm Valley Phase 5 and I'm trying to evaluate it, how far back am I going now as far as close of escrows? Am I still going 90 days back? I'm hearing people go, don't even look at close, just look at pending and active. Can you set me straight on that?
I mean, the sooner it closed, obviously, the better. It depends on how good you are at math, right? I mean, do you want to figure out what the time difference is on, 3 months ago versus today? I mean, we were just starting this new kind of market that time. So it's just a matter of, the closer the sale, the better. So, I mean, pendings that you don't know what that could be pending for. I mean, they can't tell you what the pending number is, so it could be higher or lower than that number. So those are really hard. I wouldn't just go off a pending listing for sure because I mean, you just have no idea, and you could be doing your customer wrong by just throwing the pending number out there and not knowing what it closed for. So closed sales are definitely always better, but again, in this market, you have to know what happened the month before and what happened the month before that, and then how to adjust for those differences.
All right. So then going back to the difficult properties, adding, so now, I mean, because the the point of the matter is, and I just wanted to emphasize, I'm not going back 12 months per se to find the current value. I'm going back 12 months because I haven't been able to find a comp. I've got to find a couple comps, some like kind properties. Now, walk me through the process of now, okay, I found 2 or 3 in the last, let's say, 18 months. These are
Yikes.
similar properties. This is what they sold for 18 months ago. Now I've got to figure out today's market value. How are you going about that? And I know that that's the tough part, but this is why you guys get paid for what you guys do.
Right. I mean, a lot of it is the software we use, right? So we have software that takes all of this data and compiles it together and tells us, this is a positive month, this is a negative month. We can add all those up and spit that number out. It's really not that difficult on the appraiser side, but on the real estate side, I can imagine. I don't know if you guys have any kind of software like that that would take the data and give you month by month what that particular market area is doing. Because you don't just want, overall, like when Todd puts his numbers out, that's all of MLS. That's not your market area. So you need to drill that down to your market area as well. So if you guys, I don't know, do you have systems that will drill it down to a market area where it'll tell you this month was negative, 1%, this one was 2%
Yeah,
positive?
yeah, it's a great question. I don't necessarily have any software per se that does that for us. However, I know that you can get a lot of data from the Cromford report. If you subscribe, you go on their website, armless.com itself, not logging into your MLS account, but armless.com. There's a lot of data in there where you
Right.
where it'll tell you what's going. It's not. I can't enter an address and it's going to spit it out, but it's going to let me know what's going on in a specific zip code, a specific area, up X percentage, down X percentage. So how would I? But there's not. RPR is the closest thing that we have to being able to type in an address, and then it's spitting out an evaluation. And I wouldn't go off of that, but if for agents that truly know how to use RPR, understanding the details of RPR, pulling out comps, adding features. I would say if you use RPR for all of its intended purposes, I think that's the closest thing that we have.
So what is RPR?
Okay. RPR is it's a free resource that we get for being members of the National Association of Realtors. So
Okay.
it is a tool inside Armless. So for those of you that are not familiar with Armless, and Nick probably should just get some detailed classes on fully understanding how to use RPR. And so if you're a member, well, if you're on this webinar, you remember, but you go down to the toolbox and there's a thing that says RPR. So it's basically a national database compiled by the National Association of Realtors.
Gotcha. Yeah, I use something called Spark, and I don't know if that's just an appraiser only software, but
yeah, you need to find that out for me or give me your credentials.
But that one is pretty good about gathering all the data and kind of giving you within a market area. I mean, you have to select the data that you want for that. So you go through and you say, I like all of these listings, I want this included in my database and what you're going to show me back, and that's how it happens. So for us, like I said, it's a little bit easier. But if you're a new agent, I mean, I would say that's when you need to have a coach, maybe be on a team until you're comfortable, understanding all the data and how it plays into your daily.
One of the biggest questions, and I know you get this question anywhere you go, is like, okay, so I've got these homes in a subdivision. Now I've got to figure out how much value am I adding for a pool? How much value do I add for a cul-de-sac? How much value do I add for being on a golf course? And my backyard is a golf course. And this to me, because I've had you in our team meeting, so I learned how to do this. But I would also say it's not simple. I mean, especially these complicated properties, but that's why you're going back to 12 to 18 months, because if I see that a like kind property that backed up to a golf course 18 months ago was worth $15,000 more, I probably safe to say today it's worth $15,000 more. Kind of walk us through how you handle the features, the extra features like that.
So we used paired sales, right? So we have to find something with it, something without it. What was the difference? So I remember going to real estate school or to appraiser school and waiting for that list of features.
Yeah.
I mean, just like all of you are too, right? Like, what's a pool worth? What's a fireplace? What do I put on this? I was looking for that magic list, just like all the agents are too. But sadly, what that magic list is more math. It's finding paired sales. It's finding a sale with it, without it, doing the difference. And when you were saying finding one from 18 months ago versus today, I mean, appraisers just have to have a reason for the number. So if I were going back 15 months versus today and I found one that was $15,000 more for that golf course, I would look more as $15,000 is a percent of that list price. And that's what it would be today,
Okay.
because that would be different today. I mean, houses were, 300,000 instead of 4 to 500,000. So
So
I mean,
don't use the amount, but use the
it would be
percentage.
a percentage of the amount is what I would think would be more rational in this
Well,
market.
crap. Now I got to figure out how to find percentages.
All the math.
I left those days behind me. I'm seeing more and more. And I remember I called you probably about a year ago on my personal house because we were getting ready to do a HELOC. And we're finding like houses are off sometimes when it comes down to square footage. Like for my house specifically, I was looking at the county assessor's office, and it was saying my house was 800 square feet smaller than what it is because I was looking at all the other houses that are exact same model as mine and so forth. So when we know or there is a square footage discrepancy, how do we approach that? Because and then are you guys as appraisers going out and measuring homes when you're doing appraisals?
Yes. So you can actually hire an appraiser to measure your home, and that will count for, you can submit that to tax records, and that will be, the new measurement. So yeah, appraisers definitely have to measure every house. We would be in big trouble if we didn't. So, if you find your appraiser's not measuring, then that could be a problem. So yeah, I mean, we definitely measure every house. And I mean, if you have a house that's small, like say your house, there's probably an addition somewhere along the line that somebody didn't take to the tax records and get permitted correctly or whatever. So those things need to be fixed and adjusted and decided if it's livable square foot or if it's just extra.
Well, maybe that's the problem because my boys live down in the basement, and I don't know if I'd call that livable anymore, especially that bathroom with two teenage boys. Well,
I do know.
All right, so let's talk about getting ready for, especially when we know that we might have a challenging appraisal coming up. Do appraisers want to hear from us as agents, or do you want to be left alone and let you? And I'm not talking about me coming to your house and bringing beer and trying to bribe you, but I meant, putting together packets, putting together supportive documents that our approach on it. Do you guys look for that, or do you just get bothered by that?
It doesn't happen very much, sadly. I mean, I feel like all this work that you do on the front end to know your market, to know the house, to know all the stats and figures, if you aren't putting together a booklet for your appraiser, I mean, you're missing out, because what happens is then your appraiser doesn't appraise it the way you think it should be appraised, and then you try to, change their mind, and that's a tricky subject, right? Like, nobody is going to say they screwed up. You don't want to say it. The appraiser doesn't want to say it. So I mean, the smarter way to go about it, even if they don't want to see it, which is highly unlikely. I mean, who doesn't want a little bit of help in their daily work, right? Put that packet together, put those comps that you found in there. The appraiser should see how you came up with that number, and then the appraiser can decide if that was, the right or wrong way to go about it. But if they have no idea where you're coming from, then they're going to pull whatever they want, and they're going to, probably not do what you want them to do. So yeah, I mean, I think it's important to put a book together, to put, the contract in there, make sure you're highlighting your list price. You don't, sometimes you guys go back and forth and, the appraiser could miss it. And then
That's a good point. Yeah, because they may miss the counter offers, or they might miss some addendums that were negotiated, and so the price maybe on page one of the contract isn't necessarily the purchase
the final
price.
price, right? So I mean, I would just say highlight that. I mean, they should read the contracts too, and that's our job. But again, why why leave anything to risk? I mean, if you did all this work on the front end, you really don't want, your appraiser to skip over something or be in a rush that day, or maybe they had a bad day. I mean, everybody has them, right? So make their job, as easy as possible with having all that packet together for them.
I think that there's this idea, and I'm not going to say that there's, every industry has got their bad apples, but I think there's this myth out there, this conception that appraisers want to make everybody's life miserable. I mean, you guys, I would like to think at the end of the day, you want the deal to go through.
Sure.
You don't want to have objections. You don't want to do more work. You want to. I would think you're going into this trying to justify the actual purchase price. So the more help, the merrier.
For sure, for sure. And again, like if we come across an appraisal on our desk and it looks like it's $50,000 over what we think it should be, I mean, my first question is, what was this realtor thinking? And if I don't know that, then I'm just going to disregard it and be like, well, this is what I'm thinking. So if you want, help with your appraisals, then again, putting together, your comps, your data, your information. If you're doing those open houses and you're talking to people, what did they say about, the house down the street? Because again, the worst thing you can do is leave out a comp that is terrible, right? So your appraiser wants to know, if there's a house in your market that was just awful, it was the lowest sale, don't please include this. So I'm not even going to tell them it exists. But honestly, that's dangerous, because if it looks like a closed sale, if it looks like it's comparable to me on MLS, we just see pictures. I mean, we're not walking into these houses. Like if you're on an open house, you can go down to the next house over and check it out yourself and see what it's like. And we don't really have that opportunity. So we don't know if it, smelled like animals or
Yeah. So put together a
cigarettes or
report. Yeah.
so just to let us know, like, hey, this one was awful. Nobody would buy it. This is why it was, on the market way too long. It sold way too cheap, and that's what it was. So again, let your appraiser know. You're out there in the field. You're the one doing the legwork.
All right. So you also put on here, include as much documentation as possible. Like what other pieces of documentation are we missing here that we haven't discussed?
I would include the market area. So where are your people looking for houses? So include, they were looking in this subdivision, they were looking in that subdivision. Let your appraiser know this is where the market is for this house. I mean, appraisers, we know, right? But we also want to see what you think is okay. Because if it's maybe right outside of where we think we would pick a comparable, but you're saying, hey, this is where my buyer wanted to look for all of these houses, well, then I'm going to include it. Just because I didn't think it was the market area doesn't mean, I mean, I'm not the one showing houses. So I think that's important, because that goes into where we can find comparables. We don't have to look just in your 1 mile area. Again, as the realtor, that's, stay as close, stay as new as possible. But as an appraiser, when we're looking for comps to validate these prices, then, we can go out to where you said the market area was. So
All right. So include a list of features, and these are basically upgrades, right?
yes.
What are upgrades that appraisers want to see, and what are upgrades that agents were just throwing on this list, and you're like, that's not really thick padding underneath your carpet,
True. I mean, I would say put it all on there. It makes the homeowner happy. It makes, whatever. So we put that whole list in the report. I do anyway. Whatever is on that list, I will copy it down. I'll put in a different addendum page, so that way they know I considered everything that they considered, that they spent money on, that they wanted to see. So, ceiling fans, the padding on the carpet. Sure. I mean, go ahead and list all of that, because more is better than less. I mean, you don't want to forget something that maybe, they would want to see on that report. And again, it doesn't mean it all gave it value, but it still, it gives everybody that feel good that they, they put in there, they did the effort, they did what their client wanted them to do.
All right. So I'm going to bring up the S word, solar. How are we to, or I should say, how are we putting a value on solar? And is there a difference on how you look at it, whether it's leased or owned, or how much the solar costs, or are you needing utility bills? Like, what do we?
No. sadly, I mean, we need more education on solar. There's just not enough um, education on it. So for appraisers, we have to do paired sales analysis. That's all we do. So we look at a house without it, we look at a house with it, and we do the difference. And it's usually next to nothing, which is very sad because as a realtor, you could, encourage higher prices for these things. But once they're sold, I mean they're sold and that's all we can do is the paired sales. So if it's leased, no value. I mean, sadly, unless it's owned, we can't even put a value on it. So owned is the only way to go. And even then, it's a very small number just because of the lack of education that we have around it. So I would say
All
solar
right.
is
So
a sad day.
so in today's market, we talked about, we want to include, you have up here include, at least 3 and up to 12 comparable closed sales. And we might be revisiting from the first slide. How far back am I going? Because the further I go back, the better for me when I'm trying to
Especially
justify
right now.
price. That's what I'm saying. And so in this current market,
Right.
I would much rather go back. If I'm trying to justify a price to you as the appraiser, I want to go back 9 months. Okay.
Right.
But
See, but then
realistic,
we have that software that's going to tell us it's down, however many percentages
I'm writing
from
that
that
down.
month.
Spark. I need to get Spark.
Possibly. I don't know. I'll have to see. I think it might just be an appraiser thing. But yeah, so I mean, so keep that in mind. We have the data to be like, well, this might be 12 months old, but we're going to have to take off $80,000 because of today's market, or add $80,000, 3 months ago because of of that market. But so yeah, I mean, the closer to now that you can find closed sales, the better.
But I got to come up with at least 3.
At least, I mean, we have to come up with at least 3. So unless you want us filling that blank with, something you may not want us to do, yeah, I mean, tell us how you came up with that number so we can figure out if that's, the right number or not.
All right, and we talked about the last one. I like this one because we have as agents that tendency to completely leave out the ones that don't make sense or the ones that hurt our case.
Right.
But there's generally a reason that a property sold for so much lower than everything else, and just being able to, I guess, make that case to you as to why this property didn't.
Exactly. Especially if it looks okay online, right? That's the worst because you have one, it's sold for like $30,000 less. The pictures look fine. Appraisers are going to use that every single day. So unless you're out there doing open houses, unless you're out there working your market, unless you are talking to other real estate agents and finding out why, things are selling for what they're selling for, then, we're just going to use what's easily and closest available. So again, if you know that this house had, sheltered 500 dogs or,
Yeah.
or it was a chain smoker living in there and you couldn't even walk through the door with, and still breathe, then, we can't see that on a picture. So that's where it would be very important for you to put that in your packet and say, hey, this one was a terrible one.
All right. So we know that the appraiser's showing up Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Appropriate, not appropriate for the agents to be there to present the packet and have a conversation?
To me, it doesn't matter. I mean, it slows us down a little bit to be there. So I would just like the packet. But
what about a case of beer or a bottle of wine? Is that appropriate, not appropriate?
Probably not appropriate, but appreciated. I'm just
All right. Any last thoughts? Any last tips for us? This is good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say know your market. Get out there, start doing open houses, start talking to other agents, figure out where their minds are when they're, comping houses or listing properties. Why are they listing it for this much? Because really you're the front line. You're the first ones out there. We're just basically verifying what you guys already did. So if you're not talking to people, if you're not networking, if you don't know, again, coach, join a team, do those things, get as much industry knowledge as you possibly can. It's only going to help you.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point because you talked about earlier about pendings, or somebody said pendings and agents aren't going to tell you. I'm finding right now in this market, and it's not every agent, but most agents we're willing to help one another. I have agents calling me going, hey, I'm about to put a house on the market. Yours is pending. Can you give me any insight? Of course, I'm getting permission and authorization from my seller, but I think there's this this aurora out there, or a mindset that agents are willing to help each other and have these open dialogues and so forth. So definitely reach out to the other agents if you want some more insight to what their deal is, and maybe they don't tell you, but they'll tell you some stuff. So Jennifer, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing this. So yeah, Nick, that's our 4-week series. First time we did a series.
Yeah, I think it's pretty successful. We had lots of people feedback, a lot of good interaction with the agents. If you missed any of the series that we have done, you can go to West USA's YouTube channel. You can go youtube.com, search West USA Realty, and you can watch any of the webinars we've done the last couple weeks.
All right, and then last thing I'd say, and I'm going to email it to you, but we do have the email webinar at westusa.com. Jennifer's slides are actually in a flyer format that she created. So if anybody wants to get that as a PDF, go ahead and email webinar at westusa.com, and then we'll send it to Heather. Make her do it since she's off today.
She's smarter than I am.
All right, appreciate everybody joining us today. Leave everybody with the quote of the day. All right, from Warren Buffett. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Go out and sell a home. So I go back in a month soon.